The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to today's role play webinar with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I'd like to start by welcoming our participants to our role play call here today. Hope you're all excited and eager to volunteer to do role playing with Craig and I. Craig, welcome to the call here this morning. How are you?
James, if I was any better, I'd be you.
Wow, that is really saying something.
And
I don't know if I believe you, but...
You want to know something? I have 5 important things I want to share with all of our coaching members in regards to following up their leads.
Well, yeah, I was going to say we were talking about a couple of points and questions that
I've added a few more
emailed in
during your dialogue here. I've got 5 of them that I've written down that I want to share to everyone's creative juices flowing.
Okay, well, I think that would be a good place to start. So why don't we do this? Why don't we address these 5 areas regarding follow-up, and then we will take as many role play volunteers as time permits.
Okay, well, let's jump on these 5 points I want to make, and James and Rick, feel free to add your commentary. They're not in any particular order, but I'd like everyone to write these down. Okay, so number 1 is don't put off an appointment unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay, don't put off an appointment on booking an appointment as close to now as possible unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I can remember losing a lot of business by making this kind of mistake. So, today's Thursday, and let's say I talk to somebody that wants to list their home, and they could meet with me, let's say tonight or tomorrow, but I've got something going on. Let's say, tomorrow I've got plans, and I push that appointment off, let's say, until Sunday. Only bad things can happen. Understand that time is not your friend. And I'm not suggesting that you don't have a personal life, but what I am suggesting is you want to make your best effort to try to meet with buyers and sellers as close to now as possible. Okay, so that's what's instructive. Please write this down. When you can book an appointment, and only when you should book an appointment, you book that appointment as close to now as possible. Because time is not your friend. Only bad things can happen. And I can remember this example of me talking to a lady she lived in Aurora. She wanted to list her home, and she was willing to meet with me over the next couple of days. But I had, something going on. I don't know whether it was personal or other business or whatever. And I think I just didn't feel like it. And I suggested, well, let's get together on Sunday. Okay, she agrees with that. But guess what happens? On Saturday, she sends me an email, have to cancel, decided to list with somebody else. Now, I know I could have met with her the same day that I spoke with her or the next day, and I was confident that if I got face-to-face with a seller, I was going to get that business. Okay, so that's number 1. Okay, time is not your friend. Book these appointments as close to now as possible because only bad stuff can happen. Number 2, when it comes to sellers, don't agree to meet with them too soon. Or let me say it this way. If the seller is not ready to list their home for, say, 4 months from now, they've got a very real reason why they're not able to list their home, do not push it. You do not want to meet with the seller too early. Only bad things can happen. Because no matter how good you think you are, no matter what you do or say, if you meet with that seller today and they've got a very real reason not to list for another 3 or 4 months, you're not getting that listing. Plus, they're probably, not really that interested in what you have to say because they're 3 or 4 months out anyway. And no matter what price you give them, it's going to be incorrect when they're ready to list 3 or 4 months down the road. It'll be too high or too low or whatever. So nothing good comes of it. And when they're ready to list 4 months down the road, guess what they think? Been there, done that with you. They're interviewing a bunch of agents now. They've been told to do that. How much are they going to recall? How much are they going to remember of what you said 3 or 4 months ago? Now, this is not true with buyers. You see, with buyers, my criteria was this. If a buyer is going to buy any time within the next 1 year, let's get together and meet with them. Why? Because with a buyer, we're going to sign them to a 1-year buyer agency agreement. And there's no reason to wait. There's no reason not to start sending them homes that match their criteria. Even if the buyer said to me, well, Craig, I'm not going to actually take action for 6 months, I would explain to them, well, it's a good idea that in the next 6 months, while you're getting ready to make this purchase, that we educate you on what's going on in the marketplace. So every day, any new homes that match your criteria that come on the market will be automatically sent to you. So by the time you're ready to act as a buyer, you're going to be a very well-educated buyer. Okay, so that's number 2. Okay, point number 2 is don't be too soon with sellers. Don't book an appointment too soon with a seller. But that's not true with a buyer. With a buyer, you can, book them even if they're a year out, get together with them right now. So don't be too early with sellers, but with buyers, it's okay. Point number 3. We talked a lot about this at the super conference, but still a really important point. Always set up a tentative appointment if the seller is trying to push you off with some reason why they can't meet, and the usual reasons would be got to talk to my spouse, or I've got to check my work schedule, or whatever. The reason you want to make this suggestion for, hey, let's set up a tentative appointment, and when you check your work schedule, if it doesn't work, give us a call back. It's really a test to determine whether the prospect is sincere or whether they're insincere. Because they're stating to you that they have a reason why they can't meet with you. Got to talk to my spouse, got to check my work schedule. Now, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt because maybe that's real. So here's how we determine that. By the reasonable solution is to ask them to set up a tentative appointment. And if they're sincere, and the truth was that they really did need to talk to their spouse before they agreed to meet with you, they'll say, yeah, that sounds fair. Now, if they're insincere and they were simply making this excuse up, and the truth is they don't really have this reason for not meeting with you, what you'll find is they'll immediately invent another reason, another excuse why they can't meet with you. So that might sound like this. You say, when would be a good time for us to get together? And they say, well, look, I can't meet with you because I need to talk to my husband, or I need to talk to my wife. To which you say, well, since we're both busy, why don't we set up a tentative time to get together? And if you find that doesn't work, just simply give me a call back and we can reschedule. If they're not sincere, they'll likely say something like this. Well, gee, Craig, I don't know if we're quite ready for that yet. I've got your phone number here. Why don't we contact you when we're ready? You've heard that before, right? Well, that's a bad sign. That doesn't mean that you're going to give up on them. It just means that the excuse, the reason, the objection they give you, it's not real. The real truth is they just don't want to meet with you. Okay, but always suggest the tentative appointment when they push you off with some reason like this. At least you're going to determine who's sincere about meeting with you and who's just making something up because they really deep down don't want to meet with you. And remember, not every buyer or seller you get on the phone with is going to meet with you. Who will meet with you? The very best, the most motivated, the most sincere, the most ready to act will agree to meet with you. Who will fight you? Well, everybody else. Well, if you've got enough of category A, you don't care about the B's and C's. Point number 4. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to somehow code your contact manager, your daytimer, with those prospects that have daytime numbers. And I want you to create a perfect week. Let's talk about prospects that have a daytime number. So what's a daytime number? If they give you their work number or their cell number, then you can reach them during the day. You want to make as many phone calls or reach as many of your prospects during the day as possible because, as you know, many of your prospects are only available in the evening. Now, think about this. This is the bottleneck that you're going to have. If it's true that the majority of your prospects you're only able to reach in the evening, it becomes a real problem because in the evenings and on the weekends is usually the only time that most people can agree to meet with you, you know, for listing appointments and for buyer appointments and to look at homes. So I want you to really think about this. If you're not reaching prospects during the day and you've got to spend an enormous amount of time in the evenings making the calls, and you're good at making the calls, but it's always in the evenings, when are you going to find the time to go out and meet with the buyers and sellers? So here's the dilemma. The better you get on the phone at using the universal callback script, the more appointments you're going to book. Well, the more appointments you book in the evening and weekends is now going to cause a problem. That means you're going to have less time now to follow up your leads. So the person doing the calling, you, is also doing the doing. So what's the answer? The answer is to be super efficient and try to call back as many prospects during the day as possible. Now, ideally, if you can call them back right away, that'd be nice. But the great thing about my system is if you can't call them back right away, at least you don't lose the lead, right? At least we're driving traffic to the website and the hotline, and we call these our robots. Our robots are going to answer these inquiries 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for us. So we're going to call back as many of the leads the minute they come in, as our schedule will allow. But then everybody else that we couldn't get to, we couldn't reach them, or you were out on a listing appointment during the day, or I don't know, you were at parent-teacher interviews or whatever. You know, you're not always going to be available. That's the beauty of the system because we want to give you freedom, not just success and money. We want to give you freedom to step away from your business. So we're going to create what we call a perfect week. I want you to book out time in some of the evenings during your week, just like you would book a listing appointment. So let me explain what my perfect week looked like, and you're free to copy it or, you know, create your own perfect week. But Monday evenings, okay, from 6:30 to 9 p.m., I booked myself out to make follow-up calls. Now, on a Monday, who was I calling? I was calling back all the leads that came in over the weekend. So I was calling all the new leads. I'd call the new leads first, and then I was following up with all of the people, the prospects that I'd already spoken to previously. So what's going to happen is every day you're going to have new leads coming in, but you're also going to be following up with prospects that you've spoken to before that weren't quite ready. Remember at the super conference, I said 80% of the prospects we speak to represent future business. So every day you're going to generate new leads. Some of them are going to be ready to buy or sell today, right away, so you'll book appointments. But you're also going to spend your time every day following up with people that you've talked to in the past. So I want you to think of this as sort of the hunter versus the farmer mentality. Okay, the hunter part of you is going to be looking for the now business today. So when you're calling back the new leads that came in over the weekend, the hunter's looking for food. I want food now. You're looking for the buyer seller that's ready to buy and sell today, which is great. But let me remind you of this. It's the farmer part of you that's going to make most of the money. Remember, 80% of the prospects that you generate represent future business. That's where the money is. Now, I'm not saying don't pay attention to the hunter part of your personality. I want food today. Of course, we want the buyers and sellers that are ready to act. Those are the easy ones. You know, the guy that you call back, he says, yeah, I'm ready to list my home. When? Right now. Well, let's book the appointment. But you also need to make time in your schedule every week to be the farmer. What does a farmer do? A farmer plants the seeds for next spring, right? The farmer is planting the seeds and nurturing the seeds because someday that business will mature. And that's where the windfall is with this system, is being super efficient with all of the leads. So you're going to be the hunter and you're going to be the farmer. Now, so Monday night was a night that I chose to call back all the leads that came in on the weekend. Okay, now you might want to do that too. Now, Tuesday night, I was free to work with buyers, go out on listing appointments, meet buyers. So all day Tuesday night, I wasn't calling anybody back. But Wednesday night, I was making my callbacks again. Calling back new business, brand new leads, following up with prospects I've talked to before. And then Thursday night, I was doing the same thing. And then Friday and Saturday, I was completely open to meet with buyers and sellers. Now, what other things should go into your perfect week? Well, how about, I don't know, little Johnny's soccer game, your daughter's recital, okay, going to the gym 3 days a week or whatever it is. I want you to plan a perfect week. And the truth is, you should actually put your personal things in first. Those are the big rocks, right? Put your personal things in first, then the follow-up calls, and then the appointments. And you need to treat these appointments that you've booked with yourself to make the follow-up calls as important as if you had a listing this evening. If you had a listing this evening, you wouldn't not show up to that. And this is going to take discipline. Because I've done this for a long time, and I know exactly the mistake that most of you are likely to make, which is you generate the leads, then you're not disciplined with booking designated times out in your week to follow up with the prospects, and you get too far behind. And that brings me to the next point, the last point I want to make here before we go over to Rick and James. Point number 5 is, when you enter the leads into your contact management system, if you just want to be sure that my system actually works, here's what you do. Every day, you or your assistant should pull off all the new listings on the hot sheets and cross-reference them with your database. Now, you haven't generated near enough leads from my system yet, but over the next couple months, as you start to generate dozens and dozens of seller leads, what you may notice is some of the sellers in your database have listed with other agents. Now, you can learn a lot from that. Now, sometimes the prospect might outright lie to you, but that's not usually the case. Sometimes the prospect actually told you exactly when they were going to be listing their home, and guess what? You didn't call them back. You didn't follow up with them. And the third category is sometimes something just plain happens in the prospect's life. They told you, they were truthful with their timing, but something happened. The transfer got moved up or whatever. So there's 3 reasons why we lose business. Number 1 is they just outright lied to us. They told us an arbitrary time that wasn't true. Number 2, they did tell us the truth, and you and I just dropped the ball. We didn't follow up with them. Or number 3, something changed in their life.
Right.
And their timing got moved up. All right, Rick and James, anything you want to add to that commentary?
This is very good, Craig. I liked it. 5 key points that all of us need to remember when it comes to creating appointments. The other thing I'll just add is we look at the MIT study. There's a real value in doing our best to get back to a new prospect who's come to us as a lead in the first 5 minutes. And everybody by now has probably got a copy of that MIT study, but the success in getting a hold of that person and actually going through the universal callback script goes up exponentially if we can get to them in the first 5 minutes. And I think that's absolutely crucial, Craig. In your world, you had people that did that on your behalf, and you also followed up with those people. And I don't think we can stress enough the importance of getting on a lead as quickly as we can. And that's something actually that I learned from James 10 years ago. And it served me and the people that work with me very, very well.
Yeah, I guess what I wanted to add was that in the very beginning, when you're learning this script, I think you're so caught up in the idea of booking appointments that you really lose sight of what it is you're trying to accomplish, which is to determine their timing and motivation. And what winds up happening at some point is you start to book appointments that you really shouldn't. And what I mean by that is just because you can book an appointment doesn't mean you've booked an appointment with a worthy prospect or with a prospect whose timing is appropriate for that appointment. And that happens all the time. It's very easy, particularly on the seller side, which is why when you were talking about your first point, thought that was really important. You know, with a buyer, booking an appointment early is what you want to do, but within reason, of course. But with a seller, we've got to be much more careful in accurately determining the timing of the seller. And what I was going to suggest is this. One of the best ways to accurately figure out the timing of the seller is to probe about their buyer plans. In other words, the more you understand about where they're going, the better you'll understand their timing of when they need to sell. So if we want to book our appointment with the seller so that it's at the exact right time and not way too early and certainly not too late, one of the best ways we can do that is to find out where you're going, when. You know, do you have an agent to help you? Have you already purchased? If the more we can determine of where they're going, the more accurately we'll be able to determine if we're too early or just right in terms of timing. So that's something that you'll gain with experience on these calls and of course going out on appointments where the timing isn't quite right. So Craig, let's do some role playing here, and let's take some volunteers. And I'm sure Andrea has a queue of volunteers who would like to do some role playing with us.
Yes, sir. And if you haven't done so already, please click the hand icon to raise your hand so I can open your line. Our first guest is...
How are you today?
Great. I wanted to do a role play, but first I wanted to describe a situation that happened to me this week.
Okay.
I had a call from an elderly lady who was responding to my 11 home inspection tips. Well, actually, I called her because I got the lead.
Okay.
So here's how the conversation went, and I was wondering if you could sort of play her a little bit when we do the role play. Because she's elderly and she has a home on the waterfront, which is worth at least $500,000. And the call went something like this. I went through the first part of the script fine, and I got to the, she wanted report number 1, which meant she wants to sell soon. And I asked her, when do you think that might be? And then she said, well, that's why I asked for the 11 home inspection tips. I got to get this place ready to go. And she said, where is she going? She's going to a care facility in about 2 hours south of here. So she seemed pretty motivated. So I went ahead and did the, would you like a free market evaluation? And she stopped me and said, I'm going to list my home with my neighbor, Nancy. I said, okay.
That's why you should have asked that question in the script. It's written right there that says, do you have an agent to help you when the time is right?
I did do that. And
she said, no, I don't. And then a minute later said, yes, I do.
Right.
She really is.
She brushed the question off. But the thing I wanted to talk about was I looked in the MLS under all the Nancy realtors, and there's not a one Nancy. There's 4 Nancys, and all of them have only sold like 1 or 2 homes in the whole year. So I sort of wanted to strategize how to approach her, because she fought me on an appointment. But she did say, yeah, you can send me, send me the report and put your card in there. And yes, you can follow up with me. So,
Well, I will give you my take on that scenario, and then Rick and Craig can weigh in here as well. But the reason why we want to determine if they have an agent to help them is because we want to sort of hedge a little bit here, and we don't want to spend a lot of time with somebody who's 100% committed to using another agent. So the question, essentially, once you determine that Nancy, her neighbor, is who's going to help them, is, are you 100% committed to using Nancy exclusively to sell your home, regardless of how much more I may be able to do to help you than Nancy may be able to do? And
right.
And then she says, well, Nancy has been my neighbor for 20 years. Every morning we've had tea together for 20 years. I'm using Nancy. You know what? Hedge your bets and say, have a wonderful day. Yep. Generate some more leads, because it's going to take you 20 years to have tea to pull her away. It's just, in other words, if that was the only lead you generated, then you should fight for that, because there is nothing else. But if you've got the lead generation system in place and you're generating leads every day, then the effort that it would take to pull this little old lady away from her Nancy would get in the way of the effort that you would put into converting all of the other leads that you're constantly generating on a daily basis as well. That's why we ask that question. It's not because it's impossible. We just want to know early, what kind of level of commitment are we talking about here? Are you open to the idea of interviewing other agents, or are you 100% committed to Nancy? And you're looking for an honest answer here, so you know, hey, look, should I waste any more of my time with you, or are you going to do what you're going to do? And if the answer is yes, you should appreciate that. I mean, that's really helpful to know, hey, look, don't spend any more time with me. I'm good. Mm-hmm. And now you can move on. Rick, what anything?
No, exactly the same. The one thing I would do, however, is I would diarize that conversation, and I would put a note in my contact manager to just check up on her in 2 weeks, because she may not really know what Nancy's doing. She may not really know if Nancy's an agent or not. I'm just going based on what you've said.
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure that she, because I sold way more homes than any Nancy in the MLS.
Yeah, but you know what? This prospect has no way of knowing that, and this prospect has forged his friendship with Nancy. My suggestion is keep her eye on the address, throw in a note in your contact manager to check with her again in 2 weeks, and if you get the same story in 2 weeks, I think James's advice is right. Wish her the best and go to the next lead.
Right. It's just hard to let go of a $500,000 listing. But all right.
Well, here's a point to remember. Craig said this in his opening dissertation. We're not going to get them all. We want to. We'd like to. We're chasing them all, but we're not going to get everybody. And when people begin this process of thinking about selling, they simply go on an information hunting project. And it sounds to me, Stephen, that's exactly what she's done. She's just looking for a little information to help her, convince herself that she needs to sell. She's already hooked in with Nancy. She just wants, for her own personal ego, to see what's going on, but she already intends on working with Nancy. You know what? You're probably not going to get her, but you will get the next one, or you'll get the one after that.
Great, thanks.
Our next guest is Lilla Langford. Please go ahead. Your mic is open.
Okay. I just wanted to volunteer to do the script, to role play the script. But I did want to ask if you would actually try to cast doubt in the seller's mind about Nancy based on what you think you saw in the MLS.
Well, what we want over the phone is we want the facts, okay, first of all. In other words, if this prospect is 100% committed to using Nancy, I want to know the truth. Like, we really do want to know the truth. We're not just looking to feel good. We want to really know the truth. And if the truth is, look, no matter what, I'm going to be using Nancy, you really do want to know that. So if you try to soften the question so that they lie to you and say, oh, yeah, you're great too, but really they have absolutely zero intention of using you. What you're saying is, I would like permission from you to spend my time with you, even though it's never going to result in business. And I think you're just doing yourself a disservice by doing that.
I'm going to say this, James. It really comes down. It really comes down to the conviction that they use when they're answering that question.
In the voice.
So, you know, are you committed to another realtor? If they say, well, you know, there's another realtor we're thinking of going with.
That's a different. That's not
100%. Or we're going to be speaking to our last realtor. That's not the same as.
That's not 100%.
Yes, I'm committed. But what you can say is this. You could say, you know, there's a tremendous difference between real estate agents, what they do, and how much they charge you to get the job done. Do you think you'd be open to meeting with me as well?
That's good.
Okay, so did everybody get that? But the point that James is making is, and I've experienced this before, where I'm pretty good on my feet, and I sometimes was guilty of booking appointments when I really shouldn't have. Because let's take this lady that we're talking about here. If I'm really persistent, can I talk my way into an appointment? Probably, right?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
And now I'm sitting in this elderly lady's kitchen, and she's bringing her tea out to me, and I realize 10 or 15 minutes into this appointment, well, this is a total waste of time because she's absolutely best friends with this person, or it's her sister. It's, you know, it's no matter what I do, I'm not going to get the listing. And I'm sure many of you have had that feeling before. Once you get to the appointment, you know, it's almost like be careful what you wish for. So I'm going to say the litmus test is this. When you ask them if they have a realtor to help them when the time is right, it's the conviction that they come forward with. How do they answer that? If, you know, in best cases, they say, no, we don't have anybody. But quite often, they're going to say things like, well, you know, we're going to speak to the realtor that sold us this house, or I have a friend or a relative, or, you know, my wife's sister's brother. They know somebody. Oh, there was a realtor that knocked on our door 2 weeks ago and introduced herself. That's not the same as, well, actually, you know, I'm really committed to, you see, look, if they say I'm really committed to John, the question that you want to ask is, well, what is your relationship with John? You know, if John is a blood relative, if John is her brother, it's probably a pretty good chance she's going to list her house with her brother, right?
Sure.
But I like this language. You know, you're basically reminding sellers of the truth. You know, there's a tremendous difference between real estate agents and what they do and how much they charge to get the job done. And I wondered if you might be open-minded to meeting with me as well. You see, what we're doing is we're becoming, remember at the Super Conference I said, we need to become masters at creating doubt. Now, the truth is when I say there's a tremendous difference between what realtors do and how much they charge to get the job done, is the truth is you and I are probably going to charge more than most other realtors in town. But we're certainly not going to say that. We're going to plant that seed, which is absolutely true, that there is a tremendous difference between realtors, what they do, and how much they charge to get the job done. Would you be open to meeting? You know, I know you're sort of leaning perhaps to going in one direction, but would you be open to meeting with me as well? You see, if you list your home with your friend, and then perhaps after the fact you've got second thoughts, it's too late. I can no longer meet with you or speak to you at that point. But even if you're considering going with your friend or relative, wouldn't it be prudent to do due diligence and perhaps, you know, meet with a couple other realtors, you know, meet with me as well? And then after you meet with me and you meet with your cousin John, if you know you think all things are equal, then, you know, by all means go forward with your cousin John. But if I can show you tremendous value and you know, communicate a tremendous difference in what I do and what we charge to get done, you know, maybe it would be good to know about that before you commit to somebody. All right. Now, what kind of prospect do you want me to be? A buyer or a seller?
Buyer.
A buyer. And what did I respond to? You know, the bank foreclosure campaign, fixer-uppers, doesn't really matter.
Something like choosing an agent, how to choose an agent.
Okay, well, that's really a seller campaign.
Oh.
Well, actually, we do.
Okay, okay. Then a list of properties in a particular neighborhood.
Okay. Okay, so you ran an ad and it said whatever the area was, free list of beautiful homes on quiet streets, free list with picture, visit your website. So I visited your website, I filled in all my information, and now you're calling me back, ring, ring, and I say hello.
Hi. Is this Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith?
No, but this is Craig Proctor.
Craig, the reason I'm calling is because I received your request for the information you wanted.
Who's speaking?
Oh, my name is Lilla Langford. I'm with Weichert Realtors.
Lilla?
And
okay.
Yes. And the reason I'm calling, Craig, is because I received your request for the information you wanted, and I just popped it in the mail to you. Is that okay?
That's great. Now, I'm just going to stop you there. If you emailed it, of course, you're going to say, I emailed it. But you want to know what's even safer? If you just say, I sent the information, then you don't have to worry about whether you mailed it or emailed it, because I sent the information covers everything. Okay. All right, so I'm going to say, okay, well, great. Thank you very much. In fact, I didn't know that was coming from a real estate agent. Now, what are you going to say?
Script.
Okay, now the reason I'm making this point is you will get that from time to time, because remember, we're flying underneath the consumer's advertising radar with a lot of the types of ads we're running. So that is not so much of an objection as it is an observation. So don't treat that as an objection. If a prospect says to you, hey, I didn't know this was coming from a real estate agent or realtor, just say, yes, you visited my site. And then continue on with the script. You're just acknowledging it. It's not an objection. It's just an observation. And the answer is, yeah, you visited my website. Now just continue with the script.
Okay. So, Craig, are you planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months?
You know, my wife and I have been talking about it. We just, maybe thinking of moving to something a little bigger.
Okay. Do you currently rent, or do you own your own home?
No, we own here.
You own. And then would you prefer to buy before putting your house for sale, or are you keeping your house?
I think we would have to sell our house, and I think we'd probably want to look around first before we put our home up for sale. I mean, we don't have to sell, but we think it's interest rates are low. It's probably a good time to move up.
It certainly is. So are you planning on staying in the area, or are you moving out of the area?
No, we want to stay right here in the area because we want to keep our kids in the same school.
Ah, okay, great. So if you were to move, when do you think that might be?
Well, we probably want to do something here in the spring, just so we can do the move during the summertime.
Okay, well, that's coming up pretty quickly then.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a realtor to help you with that when the time is right?
You know, we went to an open house a couple weeks ago, and we met a really nice lady there, and she's been in touch. And then there's the guy that sold us the house, but we haven't talked to him in a couple of years. We're thinking of maybe meeting with him as well.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you, would you feel 100% committed to either of those people?
No, I wouldn't say we're 100% committed. Just that's just sort of who we know.
All right. Well, then let me ask you this: would you like to get some?
Okay. Now don't keep saying, let me ask you this. Just go right to the question. Were you ever involved in the Mike Ferry program?
No.
Okay, because that's kind of something we hear. That's kind of like telemarketing language, right? Because you're basically asking me permission to ask a question. Well, what if I say no? What if I say no, you can't ask? Just go to the question. You don't need to ask me. Well, let me ask you this. Just ask it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
It's just a habit. And also things like if you're talking to a telemarketer, you might hear things like, oh, great, fantastic, super. Try to get away from that because remember, we don't want to sound like everyone else. We don't want to sound like a telemarketer.
I think they're also like something that puts a little bit of something so that I can think through the next thing that I want to say or ask. And
yeah, it's all right to be conversational, but maybe choose other words. So when I said, okay, for example, when I said to you, when you asked me if I have a realtor, and I said, well, I met a really nice lady a couple weeks ago. And then, of course, there's the guy that sold us the home, but we haven't talked to him in a couple of years.
You've already said you're not committed to them.
Really? I mean, I don't think you need to ask. I mean, am I committed at that point? Because I would just say, well, look, would you be interested in meeting with me as well? Because there's a tremendous difference between realtors and what they do and how much they charge to get the job done. Right? Which makes sense. Because that's what everyone thinks. Now, what if I say yes? Because I think I've answered these questions in a way that would lead you to think, I'm a guy you probably want to meet with because I'm telling you spring, right? And we're here at the end of February.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open houses. What else does that tell you? Who's out looking at open houses? Someone. I mean, I don't know where you live, but I mean, where I live here, it's winter, and if you're out in tromping around in the snow looking at houses, you've got some level of motivation. I'm going to argue if you're out looking at open houses, you're a shopper, and a shopper is somebody that's further along in the purchase process. Okay, so now you want to book. You've asked me all the questions, and basically I am screaming to you, I'm somebody you want to meet with. I'm going to be I'm a seller and I'm a buyer. At least a couple transactions here. So we know what you want now. You have identified I'm a guy that's worth meeting with. Now the question is you can't make me meet with you. What language are you going to use now to compel me to want to meet with you?
Okay. Craig, would you like me to email you daily updates of homes that match your home buying criteria from all the real estate companies?
Yeah, that'd be
great.
It's a
free service. And when could we get together for about 20 minutes so I can know just exactly what you're looking for? And I'd like to be able to, see your house.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Okay, let's stop. Let me tell you the mistake you made here, and it's a very common mistake. What you just did is you articulated the commitment before the benefit. You said, Craig, when's a good time for us to get together so we can, and then you were about to tell me the benefit. But the cat is already out of the bag, right? Because you've already told me that this benefit that you haven't quite communicated to me yet involves meeting with you. So which it's a very common mistake, by the way, and it's very subtle. And I hope everyone recognizes what I'm talking about here. You must communicate the benefit before you even suggest there's a meeting, and you just need practice with the offer because you sound a little bit rusty and sort of unsure of yourself, which is normal because this is all new to you. So let me, okay, yeah, right, and I know this is new to you, so that's the way it's supposed to work. You're going to get better and better. But let me say the offer to you. Okay, I want to show you what this sounds like when it's done really well. Now, would you like me to email you daily updates of all the homes that match your criteria? Our list includes any bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, and distress sales. And by the way, it's a free service. You're never obligated to buy a house. Would that interest you? Now, you're either going to say yes or no to that, right? Now, if you say yes, then and only then do I come back with the commitment, which is, well, great, when can we get together for about 20 minutes so I can take down exactly what you're looking for? So in one mouthful, you need to get all that out there, which is, what is the benefit of somebody wanting to meet with you before you even talk about a meeting? Because if there's going to be any problem here at all, it's going to arise when you communicate the fact that, well, getting all this great stuff requires you meeting with me. So we've got to make this offer sound pretty amazing, because you're trying to make me want to meet with you. Okay, you can't make me meet with you, but you got to compel me to want to. So let's do this from the top. Would you like me to email you daily updates of all the homes that match your criteria from all the different real estate companies? My list includes bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, and distress sales. It's free of service. You're never obligated to buy a home. Do you think that would interest you? I'm just saying, done properly, almost 100% of them say yes. Guess when the problem arises? When you come back with this, well, when would be a good time for us to get together for about 20 minutes so I can take down exactly what you're looking for? That's when you might hear them say something like, well, I don't know, or we're not sure, or here's a very common one, why do we need to meet? Why do we need to meet? Why can't I just tell you what I'm looking for over the phone? And your answer to that, of course, is because I want to do a good job for you. If we can spend about 15 minutes, I can carefully take down what you're looking for, and then that way I'll only be sending you homes that are a perfect match. Makes sense, right? And if they say they're too busy, let me explain how I handle that. If they say, well, I'm kind of busy right now, you should say this. Look, my service is perfect for busy people like you. Because once I understand your criteria, I'm only going to be emailing you homes that are a perfect match. Then on your own time schedule, at your convenience, you look at your email. You can drive by just the homes you're interested in. And all I ask in return is, if you'd like to look at any of the homes we sent you, that you give us a call. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. Okay. Now, you're also a seller. So would you address that free market evaluation, or try to even get into the house, or because they're just looking now, you would postpone that?
Yeah, well, you just heard Rick mumble in the background. Good question. I'm glad you're thinking that way, because you've just asked a very excellent question. Yes, if you're only going to make one offer, we've made the offer to make, because you asked me whether I prefer to buy first or sell first. And if I said I wanted to sell first, you wouldn't even be making the buyer offer at all. You would immediately go into the bottom right-hand corner and make the sell offer. Because I'm going to do both, we could use what I call a combination offer. And it would sound like this. Would you like me to email you daily updates that match all your home buying criteria from all the different real estate companies? Our list, or my list, includes all the bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, and distress sales. It's a free service, and of course, you're never obligated to buy a home. Would that interest you? And if they balk at that, you could say, also, when we get together, I could give you a free market evaluation to determine what your home would sell for, and I could give you tips on what to do and what not to do to sell your home for the most amount of money, and we could go through all the various closing costs so you know exactly what you're going to net in your pocket after all the expenses. Okay, meeting with me is absolutely free of charge, and it obligates you to nothing. When would be a good time to meet, days or evenings?
Right.
So you're absolutely right. To strengthen this offer, you could combine the benefits in both offers, because truly, even though I'm a buy first prospect, eventually I have a home to sell as well.
Can I just throw something in there, Craig?
Yes.
So here's another good rule of thumb that these guys taught me years ago. And when the buyer has to sell first and you create the appointment, where would you have the appointment? Would it be at your office or would it be at their place? Well, naturally, you would want to go over. And the reason is so you can have a look at the house and probably have that same discussion that evening about getting the property listed. And it's not unusual for you to come away with a listing and with a signed buyer's agreement, because they really can't move forward until they've sold. So good rule of thumb, when the buyer has to sell first, create your appointment at their home.
All right, good advice. All right, I'm going to go a little longer today if that's okay with you folks. I mean, I don't want to keep you away from selling real estate, but I want to do some more role plays, and we're at about 5 to noon. But I want to go to about 12:30 here today. So let's. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go back to Andrea. And let's see who's next.
Yes, sir. Our next guest is Pam Johnson. Your line is open.
Hi, Craig. This is Pam.
Hi, Pam. Where are you calling from, Pam?
I'm calling from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Well, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to do a role play?
Yes, I do. I'd like to do a role play of someone calling someone after they've been surfing our website.
Okay, so they've been on your website, and what did they ask for? What kind of information?
Actually, they just put their information in, and it looks like there was a property that they looked at, and I'm watching this, and so I'm calling them back.
Okay, so ring.
Yeah, okay. Hi, is this Craig?
Speaking.
Hi, Craig. I saw that you were surfing the net. How are you doing today?
Okay, I don't know if I'd say surfing the net. Did I request information on one of your properties?
Yes, it looks like you were on our website and that you were looking at this property, and I was wondering if I could help you with that.
Okay, that's better to be specific. I think it would be better
Okay.
if you said, okay, we'll flip it around here. Hey, Pam, it's Craig Proctor with RE/MAX, and the reason I'm calling is I noticed that you were inquiring about our listing at 123 Main Street, and I just wanted to follow up with you and make sure you got all the information that you were looking for. And I wondered if you folks were planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months.
Excellent. Okay.
Now, you see how we're going to segue right into the probing questions? Right. Well, Pam, are you folks planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? Do you have, do you currently rent or do you own? We're going to go through those exact same questions.
Okay. Yeah.
And by the way, this script can be used. This script can be used. It can be used in every prospect interaction. A sign call, an ad call. You can even use it if you meet somebody at an open house.
Right.
You're just going to change the, you're going to segue into the probing questions. You're going to change your opening dialogue a little bit.
Okay. So I have a question then as we get down to the appointment. I'm an ISA. I'm in the Smoky Mountains. Most of the people are out of state, and one of the things that we are trying to do is find out when they're coming. So an appointment is very difficult to come up with for these people. They say, oh, well, I might come the end of March. I might come in April. So we do things a little bit differently, but I'm also trying to get information to send to my outside agents so that they can work the lead.
Okay, now look, if I'm coming into the Smoky Mountains, it's the end of February now. Let's say I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks. You're just going to book the appointment at your office in a couple of weeks. Now,
Okay.
here's what's different. What if I say, well, I'm not going to be there until September? Do you really want to email me all these daily updates between now and September? And then, of course, you find out eventually, months down the road, I ended up buying something through another agent or committing to another agent. You don't want to do that. So we have a lot of our coaching members that work in resort areas. You've met Lester Cox, right? Lester's in Scottsdale, Phoenix. So a lot of his buyers come from, northern, Midwest, Canada. So what you can do is you actually, for prospects that tell you they're not coming there for 6 months, you could do the buyer appointment right over the phone or do it via a webinar like we're doing here today, and then just email them the buyer agency agreement and have them sign off on it.
That sounds very nice.
And I know that sounds strange to us because paradigms, right? That's immediately what does our brain say? Our brain says, well, that's not the way it's been done in real estate. But we've got, top coaching members in resort areas all over the country that are forced to absolutely do this. Although it's not normal in real estate that we get people to sign listing agreements and buyer agency agreements over the telephone or via webinar, people in resort communities need to figure this out because the truth is your buyers and often your sellers don't live there.
Right. Currently, we are doing the buyer agreement when they arrive.
And that's the proper thing to do if they're going to be within a couple weeks. But let's go back to this example. Let's say when you ask me about my timing, I say, look, I'm in Toronto, and I love your area, by the way, and definitely want to buy something, but I don't have a chance to get that down there until September. Now, we got a problem, right? Because you don't know me that well. I just visited your website. You've got to assume I'm probably visiting other realtors' websites in the Smoky Mountains as well. Are you just going to let me be sort of like uncommitted, visiting realtor websites? I mean, even if you send me the information. So if you don't ask for my commitment, you could do what everyone else does, which is just say, well, Craig, guess what? I'll set you up on daily emails. I'll email you every single day all the homes that match your criteria. Well, to do that, first of all, we'd have to spend about 20 minutes on the phone today, and you'd have to have a complete understanding of what my criteria was before you could set up the MLS email that way, correct? Now, that makes it very difficult for you to get me into the office because you no longer can say, Craig, when can we get together to discuss what you're looking for? Because you already know what I'm looking for. We've already done that. And all I'm saying is, there is some loyalty in the world. Believe it or not, there is some buyers that if you did this for me, they're going to come in and they're going to be loyal to you. But wouldn't you agree there's a tremendous chance between now and September that I could hook up with another realtor and you might lose me?
Sure.
So I'm suggesting you try, you over the phone, you're basically going to say to me, look, here's what I can do for you, Craig. You're in Toronto. You're going to be here in September. What I'm willing to do is email you every day all the new listings that match your criteria. This will give you a great free education as to what's happening here in the Smoky Mountains. So by the time you get here in September, you're going to be an educated buyer. You're going to know what's going on. Now, all I ask in return for setting you up on this is your commitment that you will work with me. Does that sound fair?
That sounds very fair.
What if the buyer says no? Well, wouldn't it be good to know that? Well, Pam, you know what? You can knock yourself out and email me every single day, but I really don't want to commit to you. Well, then at least you know from the onset, hey, don't put a lot of time into Craig because I don't have his commitment. But if I come back with the way most buyers, when you say, would that be fair? If I do this for you, all I ask in return is for your commitment. Does that sound fair? The vast majority of buyers would say, yeah, that sounds reasonable. It sounds fair. That's when you're going to come back with, well, great. I want to email you our buyer agreement that just reiterates in written word what you and I have just agreed to.
Okay.
Now, if you get that buyer agreement back, you've got a real buyer.
That's right.
If they don't sign the buyer agreement, you've got a real liar.
That's right.
All right. I hope that helps, Pam. I better move on to the next one.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you. I'm having fun here today. I hope you guys are. Let's go back to Andrea. We'll see who's next.
We do have a question regarding the script, and the question is from Evelyn. With Success website offering IDX, will this change this callback script?
Well, the way the IDX works is I think with Success website, the buyer is able to look at the detailed information on perhaps 2 or 3 of the listings before it asks them for their contact information. Okay, now you have their contact information, and you're going to follow up with them. Okay, now, what you're going to say during the intro is simply this. I would ask for whoever it is, Mr. Smith. It's Craig with RE/MAX. The reason I'm calling is I noticed that you requested information on homes that match your criteria. And I wondered if you folks were planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months. So we're going to go through all of the probing questions. And if you determine that you've got a really motivated buyer, okay, somebody that's ready to act now or anytime within the next year, really, you want to meet with them, what you're going to say to that buyer is that they've set themselves up to get daily emails, but you also have proprietary access to other homes that you'd like to send them as well. And each one of you can set up a list of proprietary properties. How about this? A list of homes that have recently come off the market. Okay, a list of homes that have currently been reduced. You can even offer a list of for sale by owners in the area. a list of new builder construction that perhaps isn't on MLS. Okay, or how about this? When you or your company gets brand new listings, we could put you on our priority buyers in waiting list, and before these homes that our company lists, before we broker load them on MLS, we can notify you on these hot new listings before anyone else even knows about them. Would you like to be one of our VIP buyers? Great. Well, when can we get together? What's good, days or evenings? So everything we do is about differentiating ourselves from everybody else. What we can't do is give the buyer the perception that, first of all, I don't even need a real estate agent, or all real estate agents are exactly the same. But that's the same battle that real estate agents have had for hundreds of years.
What is the best way to combat cancellations once you've made the appointment?
Well, I said earlier, if you book the appointments as close to now as possible, it dramatically reduces cancellations. Because time is not your friend, and people talk themselves out of it, and only bad things can happen the more time that elapses between when you're on the phone with them and when the appointment's supposed to happen. But you can, you can send them reminder emails. If they cancel, you definitely want to jump on those right away and reschedule another time. And some things, sometimes things come up in people's lives that they really have to cancel it for real reasons. It doesn't mean they've changed their mind about you, but something came up in their life. But just make sure you call them back right away and determine whether they're sincere about rescheduling or really they're canceling because they have no plans of rescheduling with you.
Okay, Dana is ready. Dana Truman, your line is open.
Hey, Craig, it's Dana Truman. I just had a question about your IDX follow-up. I heard you say it, and I was trying to scribble it down. I was wondering if there's some way that could get emailed to us so we can actually do it perfectly.
Okay, well, let me repeat it here. I don't have it written out, but I want to be crystal clear on what the problem is with the IDX. Okay, the problem with the IDX, whether it's the Success HDX or whatever IDX you're using, okay, and there's different types of IDXs out there. So let me get into a bit more detail so everybody understands this. Do you realize that there's some IDXs that are offered by real estate agents that never, ever, ever ask the prospect to opt in? So the buyer can simply go to your IDX, enter their criteria, and they'll get emails on homes that match their criteria forever. And the realtor never gets their contact information, so the realtor can never call them. That's a very passive and ineffective approach. And I've had these debates with realtors that do that, and the way they justify it, Dana, is they say, well, if you've got enough buyers that visit your IDX, eventually some of them will call you. That's pretty darn inefficient, right?
Yeah.
Predictable.
Okay, so if you take a look at the HDX, which is just a fancy word for their IDX, that Success website offers, after, I'm not sure whether it's 2 or 3 properties, if you click on the detailed information on whatever it is, 2 or 3 properties, eventually a little box comes up and the prospect's got to opt in. Okay, so let's say the prospect does that. But here still is the problem. I fill in all my information, and now, Dana, you're going to send me all the homes that match my criteria. So I'm going to get daily emails of all the homes that match my criteria. So here's the question our members have is, well, if the buyer's getting that, how do you get them to come in and meet with you? How do you compel them to do that? Well, you have to differentiate what you're holding back. What do you have that's different and better than the thing that they're already getting, which is the daily updates from your MLS? Okay, so you and I could quickly make a list of proprietary information that any of us of realtors would have. So what if we made a list,
and all that.
Everything that's expired in the last 6 months, it's in your neighborhood or the price range that you're looking in, okay? All the new homes that came on the market with your brokerage in the last 48 hours, you could automatically have those emailed to that buyer. For sale by owners in the area, any new home construction, plus you could give them information on tips things to be aware of, things that they need to know when they're buying or selling, it's very important that we answer that question. Like, why? Why do they need to come in? What makes us different? How are they going to benefit from coming in and meeting with us versus getting dripped on every day from the IDX?
Okay.
Make sense?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so
we'll
make a little list.
Yeah. And then that could be part of our, like I'm using Market Leader right now, and it sends this automatically generated, hey, welcome to our site. And my ISA is following up on these folks. We're trying to figure out, well, what should we actually do so they want to talk to us. So the whole thing will be about when she reaches out to you, we're going to be speaking further about some properties you don't have direct access to, and we can provide this to you. Yeah, okay. I get it.
Yeah, and you're going to have to spend some time with your inside sales. The first thing, Dana, you've got to work on is their mindset. Because I'll tell you, a lot of your inside sales agents, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but a lot of them, you want to know what they're thinking? They're thinking, well, if they're the buyer, they wouldn't agree to come in and meet either. Right. You know what I'm saying? I had an inside sales agent that worked for me, and she wasn't having any success at all. Well, actually, she was pretty consistent, Dana, because she got nowhere with everybody. And I sat down and I talked to her one day about this, and she said, well, the truth is, if I was a buyer, I wouldn't agree to come in and meet. Well, you know what? An old saying, the first sale that every salesperson must make is to themselves. Yeah. Right. So if your inside sales agents don't believe that you have something that is different and better to offer buyers than what they're already getting, they won't be very successful, because the very first sale that every salesperson must make is to themselves. If they don't believe it, they won't be able to convince anyone else of it.
Okay. All right, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dana.
Our next guest is Vic McCarrion. Your mic is open.
All right.
I'm sorry, Craig.
Hey, Vic. How you doing?
Thank you, sir. I want to do a role play, please, for free area home report for a seller.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
You're calling me. Ring, ring.
Hi, is this Mr. Proctor?
Speaking.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Proctor. This is Vic Markarian from Markarian Realty. The reason I'm calling, I got your request for area home report. I just want you to know I'm preparing it. I should send it to you shortly. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, Mr. Proctor, are you folks making a move next 3 to 6 months?
We've been thinking about it.
If you were to make a move, would you be staying in your local area or moving out of the area?
We're not sure, but most likely stay in the area.
And when do you think you might make the move?
I don't know. We're just kind of talking about it now.
Okay. Do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right?
We know a couple realtors.
Are you fully committed to them?
Well, no, we haven't listed our home yet, so I wouldn't say fully committed.
So you're leaving your options open?
Well, like I said, we got a couple people in mind.
Okay, sir. I will be saying...
Hang on, Vic. What did I say earlier? What are you going to say to me?
You're
going to say, Vic, there's a tremendous difference between realtors and what they do and how much they charge to get the job done. Do you think you might be open to meeting with me as well?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Okay, so how did that make me feel? Well, I don't want to make a mistake. And what I'm thinking is, well, maybe this Vic guy's right. There probably is a tremendous difference between realtors and what they charge. And, as soon as you bring up what they charge, I'm thinking, well, maybe Vic's less money. So, yeah, maybe I am more interested in meeting with you.
Oh, that is great.
You see, you didn't give me any reason. You didn't compel me with a reason as to why I might be interested in talking to you.
Okay.
So write that down. There's a tremendous difference between realtors and what they do and how much they charge to get the job done. Do you think you might be open to meeting with me as well?
Yeah.
And the thing is nobody likes to think of themselves as closed-minded, right? Basically what you're saying here is, Craig, are you an open-minded individual? Because, I know there's a couple agents you're kind of thinking about, but there's a tremendous difference between realtors and what they do and how much they charge to get the job done. Do you think you might be open-minded enough to meet with me as well?
Okay. I wanted actually to know the timing of selling. I didn't get the timing. Like
That's right, and I purposely was not forthcoming with that because I want to make this call real. I mean, isn't that what really happens in a lot of cases, Vic? When you ask them about their timing, they're non-specific, they're vague.
That's true.
Right. So what are you going to do with me? When you asked me when you think that might be, I said I'm not sure.
So should I ask you when the time is right, would you be selling first or buying first?
I want you to keep going through the script exactly the way it's laid out.
Okay. When the time is right, would you be selling first or buying first?
Well, that's not exactly what it says. It says, would you prefer to buy before selling your home?
Oh.
Okay, it doesn't matter when the timing is. You know, like when I do this eventually, right? Would I prefer to buy first or sell first?
That's right.
Now, sometimes be aware of this because they don't understand your question, and you'll hear them say, well, I guess we'd have to do it at the same time, Vic. We'd have to buy and sell at the same time. Now, all that means is they didn't understand the question. So you might have to be more specific. You might have to break it down and say something like this. Well, Vic, what I mean by that is, would you prefer to have the for sale sign on your home before you go look around at other properties? Or would you rather buy your next house first before you put the for sale sign on your house?
Okay.
Now, why do we want to be specific? Why do we want the prospect to understand this question? Because how they answer the question is going to tell you and I which offer to make. You know, are they a buy first client or a sell first client? That we don't have to guess now. We don't want to guess. We want to make sure we know exactly where their head's at, whether they're a buy first or a sell first prospect. Because the truth is everybody has got to pick one. They got to either be a buy first or a sell first, and that's the offer you're going to make. But you can do that combination offer that we talked about earlier.
Yes.
So if you said sell first, I could go through all the seller benefits, and then I could talk about some of the buyer benefits. If you said buy first, I'd do the reverse.
Yes. And should I ask the last question, would it be okay if I follow up with you in a later time?
Absolutely, because you don't know my time frame.
Yes.
Okay, and now, if I said no, what does that tell you?
That means you're not serious.
Well, it might mean I'm serious, but I'm not serious about working with you.
Yes.
Okay, so you can probably scratch me off my list.
That's right.
But if you ask me, we call this permission marketing, by the way. If you ask me, Craig, would it be okay if I follow up with you at a later time? And I say yes, then the obvious next question you're going to ask is, well, great. When do you think would be a good time for me to do that? And whatever time frame I tell you, you're going to call me in half the time. So if I say call me in 2 months, you call me in 30 days. Now, let's say that I answered that question differently about timing. I said, Vic, it's funny you called today because we're getting ready to list our house the next week or so. I want to hear your seller offer.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to give you a free home evaluation and go over some tips what to do and not to do to sell your home for top dollar? And we also go over all the expenses, and you know how much net you will have in your pocket. All this, by the way, it's free and obligates you to nothing. Would that interest you, Craig?
Okay, not bad, but Vic, I can tell you're reading it. Okay, now here's the thing. When you're on the phone with a really, really good seller, you don't want to sound rusty when you make your offer. I want you to communicate that offer to me like it's the best thing ever. This is an amazing offer. And here's what that sounds like. Hey, Vic, would you like me to give you a free evaluation to determine what your home would sell for? Also, I can give you tips on what to do and what not to do to sell your home for the most amount of money. And we could go over all the various closing costs you'll incur, so you'll know exactly what you'll have left in your pocket after all the expenses. It's absolutely free of charge to meet with me. Does that sound like it might be helpful?
Oh, that's great.
Be enthusiastic about it, but you got to be smooth. You can't be, kind of reading it and unsure. Because if you sound unsure about the offer, guess what? I sound pretty unsure about saying yes.
That's true.
Okay, so that's why we want to practice. This sounds kind of goofy, but just, maybe practice in the mirror. Practice with your family. You got kids?
Yes.
Would you role play with them?
That makes sense.
Okay, you need to practice this because it's better to practice with, pretend prospects rather than practice with real buyers and sellers.
That's right. That's right.
And you know, the best way for all of you to practice this is to come on these webinars every Thursday and role play with me, and I'll give you little tips, and I'll show you how to become better and better and better at this. Remember, this is not unusual. The Achilles heel, okay, the problem, the weakness that most of you have is not with generating the leads, it's with following up with the leads. It's mastering the universal callback script, and that's why every single Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we spend an hour to an hour and a half on this. All right, Vic. Hey, thanks a lot for participating. You, by the way, are one of our best participating members. You're very hungry to learn, and I've noticed that. So thank you very much. We're going to take one more. We'll go back to Andrea for our last one before we wrap it up. Let's go back to Andrea, see if there's anybody else.
Yes, sir. We do have John Jackson. He would like to try again. Your mic is open, John.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd like to do follow-up. I had a lot of leads from Google pay-per-click, and they're for foreclosures, lists of foreclosures. But I wanted to tell Rick that both my parents are from Alberta.
Oh, lucky parents. You got good parents then.
Yeah. My mom
John, we won't hold that against you.
Okay.
John, don't listen to him. He's from the East, so Craig doesn't understand the good West stuff.
Yeah.
All right, John. So let's do a role play, John. I'm going to be a buyer, and I did a Google search for foreclosures in your area. So you drove me to your website. I filled in all my information, and now you're calling me back. Ring, ring.
Hi, is Craig there?
Speaking.
Hi, Craig. This is John Jackson with J. Rockcliffe Realtors, and the reason I'm calling is because I received your request for a list of foreclosed properties in the Danville area, and I wanted to let you know that I had sent that to you. Is that okay?
Fantastic.
Great. Are you folks planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months?
You know, John, my wife and I have been thinking about it. We just started our search in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, we're definitely considering it.
Okay. Do you currently rent, or do you own your own home?
We're renting right now.
Okay. Are you planning on staying in the area or moving out of the area?
We want to move a little bit closer to the city. The commute's kind of killing us.
Okay. If you were to move, when do you think that might be?
Well, it depends on the day. Some days it takes us an hour and a half to get home here. So I would say we're probably going to do something as soon as the snow melts. We'll probably get a little bit more active when the weather warms up.
Great. Do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right?
We don't. Like I said, we rent here, and we've called off a couple for sale signs. We've had some realtors stay in touch, but we're not really committed to anybody.
Okay. Would you like me to email you daily updates of homes that match your home buying criteria from all the real estate companies? Our list includes...
John, we've got an agent that's already emailing us information, so I think we're covered there.
Well, the list I would send you includes bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, other distress sales. It's a free service, and of course, you're never obligated to buy a home.
Okay, stop there. I like all that. But I want you to lead in with this. I want you to say, Craig, I'm not sure what the other realtors sending you, but however, my list includes bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, recently reduced homes, for sale by owners, expireds, new home information from new home builders. You see what my point is? Make it sound delicious. You've got to differentiate yourself from what they're getting. So I at the end of this, I'm thinking, well, hell, I mean, I don't know if I'm getting all that stuff. I know the other agent's sending me this information, but I think I want to get John's list too. Why? Because I don't want to miss out on anything.
Yeah.
I like your stuff.
Okay.
Now, if you don't do a good job of that, what happens is I shut you down and I say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks, John. It sounds like whatever you'd be sending me is the same stuff that Joe the realtor is sending me. So I think I'm good.
Okay. Do you want me to try again?
Yeah. So I'm going to. You're going to ask me if I ever. Okay. You're going to ask me if I want the information. So let's go from there.
Okay. Would you like me to email you daily updates of homes that match your home buying criteria from all the real estate companies?
John, I think we're good. We're getting information emailed from the other realtor that we met at the open house 2 weeks ago, so I think we got that covered.
Okay, well, I don't know what the other realtor is sending you, but my list includes bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, distressed sales, expired listings. It's a free service, and of course, you're never obligated to buy a home. Would that interest you?
Perfect. See, now you've created doubt.
Beautiful.
That's what we want to do, is create massive doubt, because we know that's exactly the way buyers think. Because now, what's the poor buyer thinking? Gee, maybe the other realtor, I don't know what they're sending me. John says it's free and no obligation to get his list as well. So, hey, no downside. Sure, John, I'll take your list too.
Great. When can we get together for about 20 minutes so I can take down exactly what you're looking for?
Aha. Now that's the key, because now you're going to get together with me. You're going to sign me to a buyer contract. As soon as I sign the buyer contract, do you really care how many other realtors are emailing me houses? Nope.
No.
Because I got to buy 3. Okay, yeah, I would like to. I would like to get together with you, but John, I got to check my work schedule. I'm kind of busy here at work, so I've got your number. Why don't I get back to you?
Well, why don't we make a tentative appointment, and you can check your schedule, and if it doesn't work, we could reschedule it.
Okay, now, just so we don't want to sound too pushy or anything, you might want to say this. Hey, I would say it this way. Hey, John, we're both busy, and since we're both on the phone right now, why don't we at least do this? Why don't we set up a tentative appointment for next Tuesday? And if you find that conflicts with your work schedule, just give me a call back and we can change it. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that sounds better.
do you notice how I always like to add a lot of, does that sound fair? Because everything that we're saying here is very reasonable, right? Does that sound fair? Get them to, once they say, yeah, it sounds fair, it's pretty hard to go back on that, right?
Yeah, it's hard for them to, backtrack.
Right, because we are being reasonable. Okay, well, fine. We'll set it for Tuesday at 7:00.
Great.
Or I might say, well, I don't understand. Why do we need to meet, John? When I visited your website, I filled in, my price range and my criteria, and I could give you any other information right now while we're on the phone. So why do we need to meet?
Well, I need to do a good job for you, and to do that, I need to take down exactly what you're looking for in detail.
That sounds perfect, right? I mean, does that not make sense? I want to do a good job for you. Rather than me sending you hundreds of homes, which may or may not match your criteria, or worse than that, John, you missing out on the perfect property, if we can get together for about 15 or 20 minutes, I can take down exactly what you're looking for. That way you'll only get homes that are a perfect match. And John, sometimes they'll say, well, I don't know, I'm kind of busy for that right now. Why don't I call you later? It's okay to remind them of this. I would say, look, John, I understand you're busy, but wouldn't you agree that buying a home is a pretty big step?
Yeah.
Right. If you're too busy to come in and spend 15 minutes with me, how are you going to find the time to buy a home? Makes sense, doesn't it? So you see, right. I'm kind of bonking them over the head with the logic hammer.
Yeah.
You see, here's the crazy thing about it. Do you know that our prospects will take time off work to go get their teeth cleaned, won't they?
Yeah, they will.
They'll actually take time Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. They'll take time out of their job to go get their teeth cleaned. But then they tell us they're too busy to take time off work to come and meet with us about buying a home, which is arguably the biggest financial decision they're going to make in their life. So, it's okay just to remind them of that. That when they say that, I'm too busy, just to remind them, well, if you're too busy to come and spend 15 minutes with me, John, realistically, how are you going to find time to buy a home?
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, wouldn't you agree that buying a home is a pretty big step? 15 minutes to come in and meet with me. How are you going to find the time to buy a home anyway? We're kind of putting things back into perspective in a nice way.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, John, look, we're out of time here for today. I hope you and everyone else enjoyed it. A big thanks to James McDonald, Rick Brash, and our wonderful operator, Andrea, for doing this. And we'll see each and every one of you, I hope, tomorrow at 11 a.m. on our Ad Clinic webinar. Have a great day, great afternoon, and go sell some houses. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks, everyone.